Good evening all, and welcome to this evening's webinar, TI84 Plus Essentials. You have the one presenter this evening, that's John Bowman, and John is in Darwin, and he's an expert on this TI84. He's he describes himself as an absolute fanatic with technology and the calculator. In the calculator world, he describes himself as being bilingual. He's happy to work with TI Inspire and the TI84, and he also has a whole heap of wonderful maths problems and activities that he brings to both of those platforms. He's one of our main presenters here in Australia and also regularly overseas at the T-Cubed International Conference both in the United States and Europe. Speaking of the United States, I do see that among our lineup this evening we have people tuned in from Stanley, Virginia. Welcome, and good to see. Without further ado, I will hand you over to John, the crocodile wrestler. So what we call him, John Dundee or something to that effect.
I like that. I think it's quite ringy. Thanks.
I was just watching a little bit of Crocodile Dundee on the television last night, John.
And
so there you go, very timely.
On Paul Hogan or not? I know he's doing.
That's the one, the TV series on Hogs. That's the one, yes.
If you pass me over the ball, Brian, I'll take.
I will do that, and we will launch into this. Let's go.
Thank you very much, and good evening all. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. If like me, you've been, you're a teacher, I'm sure you're flat out already and you're thinking, my goodness, it's only, well for us it's week 4 here, and I feel like I've been back for a long time already. I have to set test papers for my 8s and 9s, so I do appreciate your time this evening. I know that we're all busy. Hopefully you'll find this rewarding and beneficial for both yourself and your students. So, this is our webinar that we're doing this evening, and this is the blurb that you originally saw when you looked through them and agreed to sign up, so thank you very much for that. This will be available, as Brian said, on demand as well, so I hope you don't get too bored of my voice if you'd like to watch it again. So I thought that to cover all those things, this would be what my agenda would be. We'll look at the new TI SmartView CE, so what I use in my classroom. I've also I have a student who has problems controlling her hands, and at times the calculator isn't as easy for her, and I've actually got the SmartView on a tablet for her to use at the moment as well, which has been a real bonus for her, and she's really enjoyed actually having that access to that, which is quite a special thing to see. Some of the features of the TI84 Plus and the nice little extras that come with the CE. In Australia, the price difference for the CE and the normal 84 Plus is very little, and yet the benefits we get, both as students and for teachers, is quite amazing. If you didn't know, we have a TI Australia YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel there's lots of stuff for IB, for the Inspire, but also some videos for the 84 CE, which I'll show you. We'll look at some apps. I'll show you where they are and where they are on the calculator. I thought I'd like to leave it open to you, the audience, to let me know which one you would actually like to go through. If there are any in particular ones that you want any questions about, this webinar is structured generally, but also we would like to answer any of your questions. So please send those through to Brian. We'll also look at TI Connect, both the advantages for the teacher and for students using it. Don't forget that's a free piece of software. Making sure that the OS version, the operating system, is the right version on their calculators, and how to update that on both the handheld, but also something that can easily be an oversight is for us as teachers actually on our software. How we can use the TI Connect for screen capture. The volume purchasing program, which basically means that if your students are buying calculators, then you guys as teachers and schools can get some free gear, which is great. And this is our last page of what we're going to be covering. I hope we can get through all of this in an hour. It's a bit daunting for me, let alone for you guys listening. Some stuff on where the TI codes is. I've been doing coding with my students for quite a while now. It's fantastic to have some resources available to support both myself but also teachers who are new to coding, and also where we can find classroom activities. Now, Brian, do you think I've missed anything?
Mate, I reckon that's a beautiful coverage. Let's go.
Okay, so obviously, like I said there, if there's anything that you would like extra to be covered, please let Brian know that, and we'll take it from there. So here you can see, this is my TI SmartView CE, slightly different to the old TI SmartView for just the 84, and it's great that we've got somebody from America joining us, but I was going to show you also, here we go. So here's the TI Australia website. We can tell it's this Australian site because of here. Later we may change it using this button, but for now we're going to stick on the Australian site. And there's lots of information there, so many resources, all free for everybody to use, but we need to actually find out where stuff is. So what we can do is we can go into products, down to computer software, and again if we scroll down, here we go, there's TI84, sorry, TI SmartView CE. And you can either get a free upgrade for your existing SmartView, if you already have it, either as an individual teacher, as a school license, but also you can trial it, 90-day free trial. So that's the version I've got for my student on her tablet to see if she likes it and see if it's useful for her. Beyond that we can discuss what's going to happen, but for now, at least give her a trial to see how it goes. So please, if you don't have SmartView, I did hear the other day people were still using the posters. It's a resource that at least you can get for 90 days and see if you maximise it in your classroom. And especially with having SmartView, it's a fantastic thing to have. Okay, so normally obviously you could say that you're going to be on a clean screen to start with. You can see here that I'm not on a clean screen, so I can just press that and go clear. But also we can see that there's common mistakes that can happen when students go into the calculator. Now there's one simple way to do that. I'm going to show you the errors and then I'll show you the quick way. So there's some errors on this calculator that if the students try and do stuff, it won't show. So these are when students come to you and go, my calculator's not working. So I'll show you those. So if we try and go graph, so producing a graph, it comes up with an error. This is quite common for students. Sometimes it will come up with a number 2 to go to, but this time we're just going to go quit. So if we quit that, and we go to window, which is what it said, we look down through it, we can see that the minimum was 7 and the maximum was -7. Well, we can't have a window the wrong way round, so let's change that, and that now works. So will it now graph? No. Dimensions mismatch. Stat plots are off list size. Okay. So if we notice, what's very common for students as well is two things with statistics. One is, and I'll be showing this in more detail, but just giving you a heads up, that the lists in their columns do not match up. They do not have the same number in each list. So let me add that number now. So that's maybe students missed a number or added a number. And equally, if you notice, there's no information in list 3. But if we go to stat plot, students are trying to plot something with list 3. The final thing that students sometimes like to do to each other's calculator, I don't know if this has happened to you, Brian, but students like to, down the bottom of here, hide something that messes up the calculator. So this down here, this negative on its own, is actually going to not allow it to graph. So we could get rid of that. Now, you can see that it's in black there to the side, which means the graph will be drawn, if it's possible. So what we can do in one foul swoop, so rather than go through them all, and obviously you highlight these to the students over time so they can deal with these issues themselves, but we can do it much quicker. We can go second, memory, we go down to reset, and the nice one is just to reset all defaults. And if we reset all defaults, then that takes it back basically to the calculator setting. All the settings have gone back as if the calculator has gone, has been not wiped clean of memory and pictures and things like that, but actually all the defaults have come back. So if you notice, the window now has gone back from -10 to 10. All the stat plots are now off, so even if the statistics list wasn't lined up, it doesn't matter. And if you notice on y equals, they're now all off, and therefore that negative won't matter. We go to graph now, it's all working fine. So So with the new calculator, let's just go through. You can see along the top that we can see what the calculator is in. It's in normal mode, it's in float. It will automatically decide what sort of answer you want it in. It's going to give the answers in real numbers, and it's in radians mode, and it's in mass print, which is a bit much of a nicer print on how to do it. To access those features, if we go into mode, there we can see them all. So there's mass print, MP, there's the radians, which we can change, and obviously if I did change it from radians to degrees, we can see it changes up here. Now, depending on what course you're doing, that's still not a massive drama if the kids don't have to change from one section to another. So for example, if we did say sine of pi on 2, I'm just going to show off the calculator. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. We're going to the quick keys, fraction key. There's number 1, a fraction. And we had pi. Always like the pi on the new calculator. Look how pretty that looks. I wonder how much coding went into producing that. Really pretty. And we press enter. Then we get obviously the answer of 1. If students did sine 90, which we also would think would be 1, then it's obviously not, because the calculator is assuming that's in radians, not degrees. So we can scroll up, a nice feature. Now, these features I'm showing you on the TI84 Plus CE, we can actually have it in just normal 84 Plus. If all your students still are using the 84 Plus, you may want to switch across. Now that's not the prettiest with the faceplate that I've chosen, so let's change that. Blimey, I feel like I've almost died on there. Okay, we can see it in this view. Now what I should have also said, since I could see the screen clearly and perhaps you could have or not, is I should have shown the large display to the side. It doesn't look very large at the moment. If I drag this across, then it's much nicer. Now I use this a lot for my teaching, to have this large display by the side. In the main, it's a nicer way for the students to see it. Obviously you can see it's not as aesthetically pleasing on the 84 because of the pixels, but we can run it to the side. The only times when I don't is when I want to use the quick keys, or I'm using from the apps, and I want to use these buttons up here that link to the screen. But we can run it exactly the same. So in here we can see that the mode is radians, it just doesn't show us. So please don't think that because I'm showing it in the CE that it's any different. I just like to have it in that form, because that's what most of my students have. And we can see, yeah, pi is not as pretty there. We can see that it still runs the same. So I will switch back because, like I said, that's what I prefer to use and what my students are now using. And we can see that it follows that history through. You can keep moving it to the left, but the keyboard gets smaller, and when you go to the right, the keyboard doesn't get any bigger, so I normally leave it about there. So anyway, so as I was saying, from down the bottom I want to reuse something, like on the 84 or the CE, we can scroll up and press enter. And we can go into angle and change it to degrees, so that the calculator knows it's now not just 90, which it would assume is radians, but 90 degrees, and it still gives the same answer, which is a really nice little feature, and that's just in angle in there. So pretty much that's mode covered. I don't think there's too much in here. Oh yes, there is. I don't say there's too much. That's a bit of an insult. You almost question why it's there. I shouldn't have said that, should I, Brian? But that I need to necessarily discuss now. But stat diagnostics is very useful. If we turn that on, that's going to give us our R-squared value when we do our diagnostics. So we'll turn that to on by moving the arrow across and pressing enter. And you can see up here it tells you what happened.
It's not quite as simple as it used to be, is it? There's more stuff in there.
There is more stuff in there, and I think in the main there's good more stuff in there, if that's not good English. But, I think it's very useful, and I don't think there's much in here, like this for example. If you're teaching, like I'm in Northern Territory, I'm linked to South Australia, if we're teaching specialists, we would access all of these. And if you were teaching IB, then you definitely would be accessing both of these. These are nice ones to talk to the kids about. The kids like to have that in float too sometimes.
For money,
so, I think there's not much we don't need on here. It's just that, yeah, it's obviously horses for courses, I think, to some extent, Brian.
Yes, I always used to advise students, if in doubt, just set everything on the left options.
Nice, yeah,
and that would get the show going.
And the default, like I showed you with the memory, would do exactly that as well. That's a nice point, Brian. Yeah, thank you. So the other one, as well as for the mode, is the format here in blue, so second format. And notice, I'll just digress just for a second, that if you were wanting, if your kids found it struggle to follow what you were doing and you wanted to give them more option, or equally you were wanting to create some short videos or even some documents to help them, you can go back into U and show History Press. And that will keep on showing what we've been doing. So if I just clear that and get back here, we can see that not only does it highlight here, and therefore that's a fantastic feature if you have a smartboard, a touch screen, because the kids can see you actually almost touching this big calculator on the screen. I can make that small if I need to, but we can see that it tells the students what I'm doing each time. And that's quite a nice little feature as well. Again here, they're all fairly self-explanatory. I was talking to a teacher a couple of days ago who's doing linear programming using one of the apps about points inside a feasible region, so not the vertices themselves, but points inside, and we were talking about using the grid lines on the graph to highlight it as well. That's a nice one. And what's changed probably on here, the CE, as well as those, several of these things, is the border colour, which I think is more to prettify it, but it's the background. So let's go to that, because that's a really cool thing. And I've used this a lot. You can see that the background, well, what's the background? The background to the graph, and we can see that there's, I think it's 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, or is it 6? 4, 5, and I think the next one, there you go. That's one, Brian, that you used, I think. Am I right? We've lost him for a minute. I think there's 5 pre-installed images. You have space for another 5, and let's run with one of my favourites, which is the water fountain. So
I can see a parabola coming up.
Well, there you are, yes.
The other one, John, was used to measure the refractive index of the block.
Yes, it was
in gradients of lines.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So we can see that there's the image behind. So this is really powerful for students using their own images on there, as well as the pre-installed ones, especially with assignments. And I'll show you one on my handheld in a minute and show you how we get that, and show how that I've used one in my class and how it all works. So for example, if we do have this one already on here, then a really nice feature again that is new, I think, is into calculate, and I want to go to the bottom, so I'm going to scroll up instead, which makes sense. And you can see that we're going to go to quick plots, which is E. I could have just pressed Alpha E, but instead I'm just going to press Enter. And what quick plot allows me to do is, and it's much quicker, believe it or not, on the handheld, it allows me to drop some points, because like Brian said, and it's a bizarre, I don't know why it's not as efficient. It's really smooth on the handheld. It works really nicely. The students love it. A great activity to talk about how many points we need to drop. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we've got so many things to cover, but so many points we need to drop. I'm going to get rid of this history press as well, because I'd rather have the screen a bit bigger. So I'm going to clear that, and we'll hide the history press. And you can see now there's a tab here, and if I leave it in this form, the students can sometimes not understand what that's linked to. So what I like to do is change the view back to hide large display, so that, and if we need to, I'll run with it lots of times in my classroom with this to the side, and my classwork is happening on this screen here. The reason I want it like this for the students is they can see that this tab is linked to F5, so we press it now. Okay, we can see it comes up with all the choices where we want number 3, so press 3. Enter value entered is not allowed in the function or command. Ah, that's interesting. What has happened there? Did I not set my defaults? I wonder what happened there. Let's do that.
Yeah,
That's an interesting one, Brian, wasn't it?
is that negative sign down the bottom? Is that in the way?
Well, it shouldn't be because the graph was off. So let's try that again. Calc. We're going to do E, alpha E, quick plot. Let's drop some points. Let's move across. Enter. One there. Enter. Go across here. Enter. Fifth equation. Number 3. There we go. How bizarre was that?
There we go. There we go. 3 points for a problem.
Yep. I did that. That is interesting. Now, again, we don't want students to miss this out. We're going to store these values. Very strange. We're going to store those values again using the store button below F5. So it says it's going to store the X values from those points in list 1, the Y values from list in list 2. It'll set up a point, the statistics plot for me, and it'll store the regression equation in Y1. That all looks pretty perfect to me. So I'll come down to OK. I can change any of those, obviously, if I wanted to Y2, etc. Let's leave it like that. Press OK. There's the point. And a really nice discussion. I like the fact that it comes off here on the moment. A really nice discussion to talk to the students about why that's the case. And I've used before, my phone is linked to my data projector, so I can show my screen on my phone, and I can show all the different ones on the kids' calculators and talk about, well, why do we all have different quadratic graphs? And why are they different in this equation and here in y equals? Really nice discussion to have with the students about, and obviously the points they chose and where they chose them. We can just zoom out, which would be nice just to zoom out to see the top of this curve, but the problem is that this picture is fixed to the screen. So even if we zoomed out, it would still stay fixed to the screen. So these points would then start to move. We can see that that information is now in stat, and there's all those points that I've plotted. Quite amazing level of accuracy. And that stat plot has been turned on list 1 and list 2. We can see that that's been done. So a really nice feature of that. I'm going to go back into format. I'm going to turn that image, which was image 4, turn it off. Go back across to a blank screen. Okay. I'm going to go into stat plot and turn that one off. Arrow across, enter, and now we got back to a normal calculator screen, which has still got the quadratic on there from the graph, which is fine. I'm going to run with that quadratic now. Now, a really nice feature as well is as well as having the fact that it's got better resolution, we saw that compared to the TI84 Plus, and it can download images, is obviously the fact that not only those images, but the graph and the images are in colour. A fantastic feature. So I'm going to draw a straight line on here now. And we can see at the moment that it will draw it the same, it will draw it in blue. So if I go 0.5, so I need to do the 0, but always nice to teach the kids to write that. Minus 1. Oops, not negative, that won't work. I'll do a times minus 1. Then we can see that there's my straight line. This, like I said, isn't really what I want, the same two colours, so let's go back into y equals. And if we arrow across and press enter, I can change the colour. Like the old version of the TI84, I can change the start of the line, but here I want to change the colour. And if we've done defaults, we've done it automatically. And we can see now that it really is. I have to say, I get quite excited when I say that, and I don't know whether I should get excited, but that's fantastic. Again, we can now look at some values, and I'm sure that you've done most of this before, and if you haven't, then this is how you can find it. We can find any value we want to on the graph. So a classic value that we may want to find is the y-intercept, so x equals 0, a fantastic way of reinforcing that it's a constant and why it is. There it is, it's on there on the straight line, which we should know, it's -1, an arrow up, it's 10.8 on the blue line. We can find the zeros if we want to. We can find the maximum of that curve. So, very quickly, by going onto the blue curve, it asks us to go to the left bound. So I'm just going to arrow across, and you'll see that that cursor will come down. There it is. And again, students like to arrow across to the right-hand side. I'm going to be a bit lazy and say, well, I definitely know that the right bound of that is about 2. I'm just going to type in 2. And we can see, is it between these two blue lines? Well, yes, it is. That's the maximum. Oh, I didn't. I chose minimum. Come on, Brian, you're supposed to be looking after me. You're supposed to be my wingman. He gives the minimum there.
Mate,
true.
yeah, I'm sorry, I was just setting up some pages for the conclusion.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I thought you just let me to just burn there. Let's try again. Left bound. Okay, so we know it's between -3 and 2, and that looks pretty good to me. Press enter, and there it is. Now, again, students may need to use those numbers in further calculations. Lots of times what they do is write those numbers down, but they're still not accurate if they wrote them down like that. But a nice thing to do before they quit that is get rid of that, is to go into the normal calculator screen. The calculator has held those values temporarily until something else happens. So if you notice, if I press X, that is the value from the graph that we had for where the maximum is. And if we press alpha Y, it will also tell me what that maximum value is. Now the problem is that if I do another calculation, so if we do, say for example, intersect, and, oops, sorry, I pressed down, I didn't press intersect. Second calc, intersect number 5, as for the first curve, and the second curve, yeah, it's the blue one, that will do me fine. And we want to have an estimate of where it is. Let's go for this one, over here, this positive one. Again, I could have typed the number in, that will do. And don't need to guess. There you go, the intersect's there. You'll notice that if we go back to normal calculator screen now, that those old values of x, the old value of x, has been wiped over by the new one. That's what I mean, it holds it for as long as something else happens. So what I encourage my students to do is when they've got that value, let's go back up to this one, is to store it as another variable. So store it and make a note on their page or in their on their test paper that they stored it as another variable. Less likely for things to be happening with A. And then if they need to do other calculations, they can do. If they were doing something. If they then want to use that, then they can simply go, let's say, to A, so that was the x value where the maximum was, and it gets doubled that value. So a really nice feature using the store button on the calculator. Let's clear that. I showed you earlier the shortcut keys to find fraction. These are all along the top in F1 to F4. I'm always interested in what will happen eventually to F5, but at the moment it's just F1 to F4. We can see that F1 is all to do with fractions. You can see these tabs here. If I arrow across or press the second one, it shows me all the different features that I can do with this, both probability. Really nice way that's written. And it will do derivatives and integrals. A quick way of doing matrices. Doesn't do it as set, I suppose you could word a better word than using it stored in matrix, but it does nice quick matrices if there's something quick you want to do. And Y-var if you're wanting to do something like that, and I may just demonstrate that quickly as well. So thinking about those and thinking how they may be used, and if there's one particular that you'd like to use, please let Brian know. A nice one that we could do is quit that, and in normal calculator screen, I'm going to turn the linear one off, and we have this quadratic already. Let's just have a look. There it is. We can't see the top, so I'm going to change my window so I can see the top of it. That's the Y math. I really like the students to do this by hand rather than using Zoom, because it makes them think, well, what do I need to change? What isn't in the right place? So if we go to graph now, we can see that fits on nicely. And equally now, if we wanted to find the graph of the derivative, we can come down to Y3. Use the quick keys, shortcut keys. There's the derivative. dy, or we d function over dx, of which, well, the function is alpha F4 for the quick keys again, y2, and with x for all values of x, we want it to be for every value, and if we go now, there's the derivative.
Very nice feature, yeah.
It is, isn't it? It's just fantastic, and we, in our exam course, we use a lot of that to look at derivatives of graphs and integrals of graphs, and it's a really nice little way to look at it. And if we also link that then to table, and if these were nice numbers, this obviously won't be a nice one, if this was table, we can see how it's a really nice discussion about how these are the y values, but these are actually the gradient values.
Yes.
And really nice. And if I'd chosen a quadratic that was nice values, then we could see it a bit clearer, but we can still see there quite nicely that there the gradient is changing from negative. Let me change the view because it's a bit small there, Brian, isn't it? It's changing from negative to positive, and we can see that that's roughly around where the maximum is, which is what we'd expect. It's around there somewhere. We could change, if we look up here, it says press plus for delta of the table. So if we press plus, we could change what it goes up by. So we could change, say, to 0.1. And we can see again that we could look around what's happening, and we can see quite nicely how that's changing around here. Really nice, just to reinforce what you're doing with the students. Now, I was going to move on to the next thing, Brian. Was there anything that you could think of that we need to show on the normal calculator screen before we go and do some of the other things?
Well, just all those soft keys are a very handy addition, are they not? So, yeah. Going up to the CE model, particularly
that's the same
like
on the
that.
84 as well. Yeah, 84 plus. When it's in the operating system, it works the same. So, yeah, it works the same. It's a fantastic feature.
Yeah.
Now, if there were more things on this that you wanted to know about, then what you can do is TI have their own YouTube channel. If you type in youtube.com/user/TI, capital Australia, then you can see that we have loads on here. And if we go to playlists, there are 4 videos getting started with the TI84, as well as other features. There's 4 videos in here. They're all on the YouTube channel that are free for both teachers and students. So if you have a new student coming from another school that wants to use this calculator, you can show them this. But equally, new teachers, it's a great thing to do during a staff workshop. If we now go back to the calculator, we were talked briefly about apps, and I'd like you again, if there's apps that you'd like to discuss, to ask Brian. The main ones that I use in my teaching is the TVM solver, the finance one. You can see that here. That's the main one that I use. And the other ones that I use, with middle school, I've used the Breed Junior, which is fantastic now that it's much better pixels and colour. But the inequals that I use quite a lot for linear programming with my students, and PolySim, which allows us to solve polynomials and also to solve simultaneous equations.
Yep. I don't know if you saw that in the chat there, John, but we just had a request that we look at the PolySim.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm here. I might as well stay on it. By Q, Brian, thank you. So here's the polynomial root finder. They've changed it on the new operating system, so the style looks slightly different. Again, do you see these tabs here? When I'm showing this to the students, I like to put it back to that screen so we can see how the tabs match up with the keys. After a while, you don't need to do that, but it's nice just to show them that. And if we, that quadratic earlier that we had was a bit more complex, but if we choose, again, order is nice language for the students to understand. I was doing some specialist work with my students today on polynomials, and that was nice to reinforce that, but also the fact that their answers could have complex answers as well. I'm sure that Brian could come up with a quick cubic or something with complex roots that we could look at. But for now, I'll just stick to a quadratic. We're then going to go to F5. And here's the quadratic. So if we just stick with, let's go something tried and tested. I'll go back over here. We're using the arrow buttons here, press plus or minus. So we'll go to the minus. Oh, what should we go for? Let's go minus 6x enter, plus, no, we'll change that to a minus, enter, 7, enter. And then if we want to solve that, that's F5, there we go, we can see that the two zeros and two roots are -1 and 7. There's other little features nice as well with the app that we can go back to the coefficients and change those. So just thinking of one that perhaps wouldn't give a nice answer, change that to plus. Just again, just thinking off the top of my head, let's go +7. If we go to solve now, it says no real roots. Okay, so that's a nice little touch, and we could look at the graph of that and see that it doesn't. If we went to mode, we could change it to complex. Go to next again. It's still held what was there before, which is fantastic. And solve again. And there we go. Our answer is complex. So again, my specialist students were working on some product. A nice way to work back from that and work back to the graph. Notice that we can also store those values. That's F4 if we would like to as well. We can store the polynomial in y equals. So let's do that. Nice little feature of this, Brian. Press enter. It stored it in y4. It chose the first one that was empty. How smart is that? How clever is that? If we quit that now in y equals, there's that polynomial that I typed in earlier. Nice. I'm just going to turn the other two off. Turn those two off, and if I go graph now, there we can see that it has no real roots. So please keep those questions coming in. If there's other things that you'd like to show, I'd like to move on, but if there's other apps that you'd like me to show, I will do. Now, again, going back to the TI84 website and going to products and software again, computer software, we can also see that not only do we have the Teach software, we also have the CE software, the connectivity software, both for Windows and Mac. And that allows basically us to connect our calculators or students' calculators to the computer. I've already done that on here, so you'll see that I've already got it over here. Shrink that down a bit. Okay, run that over to this side. Let's get rid of the history, press for a second. This is how perhaps I'd run it. And here it is, TI Connect, just over here. I think this is fantastic, and again, underutilized. It's underutilized by the students, and I'll show you why that is the case in a minute. But I don't think it's maximised as much by teachers either as it could be. So I've got a calculator already connected at the moment using a USB to mini USB, and the new version of TI Connect CE works for both the 84 plus CE, and the 84 plus, and then even just the 84. So it works on all of them. So if I turn my calculator on.
Yeah, John, just while you're on that, I had a couple of questions come in on the chat about importing photos.
Yes.
There was some set photos that were in the calculator. How did we get, for example, that Specs block photo in there?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Brian, for that. I was going to leave that till I got onto this bit about TI Connect, just because it links in nicer to talk about it through TI Connect. But the same will work on both the Smart View, which I'll show you in a second, and also through the TI Connect. So thanks for that, Brian. I'll get that answered now. So you can see that I have a calculator connected, and you can see that the operating system for it is 5.2. If we need to make sure that we have the current operating system, again back to the TI website, go to Downloads and Software, and if we choose our technology, either the CE or the 84 plus, it makes no difference. So this time I'll go with the 84. Well, that's a bit silly because I'm showing you the other screen. If we go Final, and it's already here actually anyway, but you can see that there it is, and it tells me it's 5.21. So my calculator at the moment is actually holding the correct memory, the correct, version of the software. What I do on my operating system, what I do on my school computer is have the operating system to the side. I've got both the 84 plus CE one and the 84 plus, And then simply, no different I'm going to show you in a minute for an image, what we can do is we simply, for the calculator, and we're in Calculator Explorer because we're exploring everything that's on the calculator. This is slightly different to the smart view that's behind here. I simply just drag and drop it across. It's that easy. You can see now it wants to send it to my calculator. I don't need to send it because it's already the updated operating system, but you can see that it's simple as drag and drop. So to answer Brian's question about the photos, I've already downloaded a photo. I found the photo that Brian used. I like this one, the refraction one. I've just simply got it from Google Images and just saved it to my desktop. And you simply grab that as a normal window, so I don't have to do anything with it. So an image file, and it says you want to dump it onto your calculator. So yes, please, I would. And it says you want to dump it as image 1. Well, I can dump it as image 1, but don't forget I've already got my pre-installed images there. So I probably would choose one a bit further down. I think I've got nothing at 8. I'm going to choose image 8. Notice there's a button here as well. I'm going to send that. And you'll see now that image 8 is there. But it looks like it's there, but is it really there? Well, what I can now do, I'm going to go screen capture. So I'm going to press the camera. At the moment, my calculator is on normal home screen. So you can see that there's no screen capture. If I now press second men, and then another screen capture, you can see that, okay, swing those down a bit, you can see that that's where I'm going from the memory, and I'm going to press number 2 on my screen. Sorry, not number 2, I apologise. Number 1 for about the calculator. I'll show you this again while I've got on here. There is the operating system version, which it told me it was here anyway. I didn't need to do this. But if I now go into format, like I showed you earlier, for background, I can't show you live on this one because obviously I'm
You've got the
running.
handheld.
I've got the handheld, not the smart view. You've got to understand that these are images from my handheld that I've got connected to the side. I should almost have a video here, a bit of Skype video. I'll take a photo now. You can see that here we go. I'm on background image number 8, and there it is, dumped in. So if I now choose that and go to graph, as we discussed a minute ago, I'm just going to turn off. I've got some lines already on this one. If I turn those off and now take another photo for you, you can see that there is that graph already nicely there.
And we could use that quick fit for a graph, dropping some points on, and very quickly get the linear functions for the incident ray. And yep, we can measure angles.
The nice thing as well with these images is, I don't know about people with other courses, but in Northern Territory and South Australia, the students have to produce their assignments, and they have to be digital versions of their assignments. All these images we can actually put into their worded assignments. So if I've got Word open and we're talking about refraction, if I can spell the word refraction, we can simply grab that image. Oh, we can't if we do that because we won't be able to see it. Let's shrink that down and move to the side. I can grab that image that I wanted down here. I can grab them all if I wanted to. If I just wanted that one, I can put that straight into my Word document, start into my assignment, and I can play with it in there, and I can have all my statistics in there, all my statistical analysis. So this is a fantastic tool for my students for their assignments, but also for teachers if they want to produce resources. So that's that one, but if we want to do it on for the smart view, so that's for the calculator, for the handheld, and just to let you know, for the handheld, if we had to do the operating system, I already showed you that, I was away from myself. We do the same thing, we go to Calculator Explorer, it's here, okay, and I won't go and find a new image, I'll just take the same one but put it into a different place. It takes a little bit more time to find it on here. So we can see we've got 6 images so far. You can see the screen is very similar. This is now the smart view. This is what my computer version compared to the TI Connect, which is my calculator. You can see they're basically the same, which makes life so much easier. We simply drag and drop it across onto my smart view. It asks the same question. This is what you asked, Brian. I'll put it to number 9 just to prove to you that, as you can see over here, that there's nothing on 9. We send it to there. Always when you're presenting, you're hoping that that goes a bit quicker. And with the handhelds with TI Connect, you can connect as many as your USB will hold. You can see now image 9's there. Go back to the calculator, and if I go back to where it was, which is in Format and Background, and scroll through them, we can see that, there is number 9 is the refraction one that we just dumped in. That's easy. Literally drag and dump. Really, really simple. And that, so I think does that answer that question, Brian, do you think?
That was the one we were asked. How can I get my own images in there? And of course we're working on the idea that people know how to extract the images either from Google Images or from their camera or their phone and save them on their computer.
That's right, yeah, exactly, and so nice. I'm just going to show you again now. JPEG files will work. It's the best format. Yeah, thanks for that. I've just gone into the TI Australia website again, gone to Products and gone to Graphics Calculators and gone to the TI84CE. Because obviously with the TI84CE, not only is it colour, not only are the pixels better, not only can we put images on it, but it's got a rechargeable battery. So it makes it much thinner and much nicer to use. So we don't have to worry about those batteries. But obviously one of the downsides of that, I suppose you could argue, is that the kids need to make it charged. I never see a student in my class with a flat mobile phone. So you'd like to think they wouldn't with this either. But you can see that there are resources available to make these things easier. And some of the accessories is this charging station. I have one of these in my classrooms. I have a class set of 10, and the library has a loan set as well. So it's easy for the librarian to keep track of how many they have there. But we can see some other features. Now, obviously, I'm not actually sure how much these are, and you can click here to find out how much to buy them. But at my school, we got those for free. And the reason that we got them for free, if we go to Teachers Resources, and in Teachers Resources here, you can see that they have something called the Volume Purchasing Program. And the Volume Purchase Program, like I said to you, is if your students are buying calculators, or your school is buying calculators, either way around, then you can see here that you can claim for free equipment, basically. So at my school, we run, I won't tell you which company we use, but our students buy them a book listed through a certain company. That company contacts TI. I'm just trying to find where it is. Here you go. There we go. And for every 25 graphics calculators that my school students purchase, then I can claim as a school a charging station. Now that is awesome. Not only do I keep them tidy, not only do I keep them fully charged, and students can charge their own ones at recess and lunch, but I can quickly transfer operating systems to all 10 calculators and images in the same way. So if I wanted to run with an image for the whole class, they literally put them into the charging station and I run the same drag and drop on TI Connect, but obviously there would be 10 calculators showing up here, which would do it much quicker. What do you think about that, Brian? What a bargain, hey?
Yep, it's exactly what I did at my school to get, would you believe, the caps and the charging stations for Navigator.
Yep. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Why would you not, really? And TI are really supportive to get that done for you. So just speak to them. Now, back onto the website again, if we go back to the home screen. Now moving on, I think I'm doing well on my agenda. I'm getting through it all with just under 10 minutes to go. Where's the time gone? We can see they've got TI codes. Now, for a while now, I was doing my own programming with students using the phone, or using the handheld, on the slip of the tongue, in program. This is a clear one, I've reset it for tonight. We can see that this is where we run our programs. Now, I've regularly done this with my students, but if you've never done this before with your students, then, and you're not sure what it entails, then you don't need to, because the support is here for you. If you click on TI codes, there's the CE, and the same works. Please don't get put off that it says CE. It's the same for the TI84 Plus. So if you look on the TI84 Plus, I used to run it with that. It has the program button exactly the same. And I know, Brian, you've run a webinar on this, so if people would like to know more, they can we can go to the on-demand section and find out one of the old webinars. But we can see the attendance of both TI84 Plus family start.
And I believe you've got one coming up soon yourself, John.
Am I? Oh, thanks for that.
Oh, Jack, tell the participants about that, yes.
So there we can see that if we want to start off, so again, the teacher does not need to be the expert. That's the important thing. The teacher doesn't need to be the expert. You can either print these documents off that you can see in teacher notes, or equally, you can just have the kids with their electronic devices, if it's bring your own, or even in the computer room with the calculator, they can work through these on their own, or even set it for homework. The pressure is off you as a teacher, and all the supports you need are in the teacher's notes. And like I said, it's a fantastic resource, isn't it, Brian?
Yes, look, I think it's the kids love it because they just go online, or even if they're not online, you can just print out the instructions for them. You can either do it step by step online, or you can print it off as complete PDFs. But because it's very algorithmic, you can actually leave it for an extra, which I've done. You don't even need a maths teacher leading it, although of course it helps.
Oh, and also it's fun, so you want to know it yourself as well, don't you? So
yes,
now to finish, activities. We did talk about activities. You can see that if we go to teachers on here, that there's both the Australian curriculum and the senior curriculum for the Inspire calculator, and there's the TI codes, again, a different way to go into it, and the resources that we just talked about, and there's the webinars. But at the moment, it's being updated. You can still access the activities, but it's being updated with the number of activities that we can access on this website. So you'll please wait to hear about that. Please sign up to our newsletter, and you'll hear about when that's done. So for now, I'm going to go to the United States website, as quick as that. And if we go to activities here, we can see that's very similar, but near the top is one called 84 Activity Central. Again, this is a fantastic resource that you can access for free. Anybody can access. All right, that the strands for Australia don't match up quite the same with the Australian curriculum, but that doesn't matter. And I was looking at one the other day that I was using because I was doing some stuff with my year 8s and using the class set of calculators I have. And if we go to middle grade maths, statistics and probability, and there's plenty here that you can look through. And here's one called Roll the Dice. So that's using the app, probability app on the phone, on the calculator. Twice I've done that now. And you can see that here's the activity sheet for the students. And also, as all of us teachers like to have, we like to have the answers and that's like Brian said, leaving it as a relief lesson. So if I click on the student activity, we can see that there's the activity for the students to run through, and you can see that it leads them through it, tells them exactly what they need to do and where they need to go. Was there something you wanted to add there, Brian?
Again, I think it's an easy one for preparation. It's all done for you, complete with answers. Again, I don't know that I'd be as inclined to leave that for a relief teacher that doesn't have maths know-how, but it's in the classroom. It's a very easy one to guide the students through.
I find that when I have left the odd one in the past for students, they quite like the fact there's a non-math teacher. You have to obviously choose the right activity, but they sort of almost want to be the expert and show the relief teacher what is happening and what they can learn. And obviously, because they have to fill these worksheets in, you sort of got a record of what they've done as well. So unless there's anything else, Brian, that people would like to have answered, we've gone through the Smart View and some of the features of the calculator. I've tried to discuss TI Connect and how we can use TI Connect, and also talked about the Australian website and how there's so much resources there to support you, to make your life easier, really. That is it at the end of the day.
Certainly does. I will. I'll take the bouncing ball back then, John, if you're all done there.
All yours, my friend.
And I've just got to just want to share a couple of websites. You've shown some already. When when we do head out of the webinar, as I mentioned before, we would like to see your feedback, please. And I mentioned that you will be getting a follow-up email with the links and activities. This is the YouTube one. John did show you some of that. That website, it's a whole host of goodies, and a great one for that flipping the classroom, have the students do the study at home and then come to school and talk about it. They can do the study on their own. It's a great resource for students. So, John, thank you again for this evening, and to the participants, other things to look forward to. Can I just put in a quick plug for the international conference? I do see that we have American participants online tonight, well, it may not be tonight for you, at Chicago from the 10th to the 12th of March, so just a couple of weeks away.
That'd be a nice coup if you could get your school to pay for you to go to that, wouldn't it, Brian?
Well, yes. Well, there are some sponsorship deals about. So, yeah, look what you can get onto. Yeah. And the other one is on the Australian website. I'll just take us to this, the main page that John's already shown you. If you've enjoyed this evening's webinar, then you might consider to sign up for another, and if you want to hear more from John with his expertise, so here we have this evening's webinar. There's some here that are subject specific, and as you see on the different platform on the TI Inspire, but coming up on the 29th of March you have the TI Innovator Hub, which works for not just Inspire but also the TI84, and that's a STEM application where we can connect a port to the calculator and use that coding that John showed you, and get the calculator to run code to do things like lights and buzzers and motors. So that's all from that very powerful little calculator.
Really cool, and really powerful and simple thing to use in the classroom with that device the kids already have to develop coding for it further. It's fantastic.
Wonderful stuff. So I'll thank you again, John, and we'll...
Thank you, Brian. Thank you all.
And I'll stop sharing my screen here and close the webinar. All the best to all.
Thank you,
Cheers
and good night.